Welcome, everybody, to Enlightened and Uncensored Chats. Today, we have Aaron Perry here. He is a published author, his new book called Veriditas. He is renewable energy and sustainable development leader, which I'm really excited to have this type of talk on the Enlightened and Uncensored Chats. It brings in, new energy, new an expanse. Instead of just speaking specifically about energy, we're bringing in, the sustainability, the sustainable development, and so much more as we get into this chat. He has been an expert in his field for about 25 years. His background is in natural foods, herbal medicines, renewable energy, so much more. And he is the founder of Why on Earth Community. So welcome, Aaron. Thank you so much for coming for today. Do you want to tell everybody, hey?
Hey, yeah, thanks, Lauren. It's so nice to have this opportunity to visit with you, and howdy to everybody out there tuning in.
Super excited to start. Everybody, don't forget, we do comments at the end, so feel free during it to post anything, and we'll look at everything at the end. And we shall begin the chat. So, Aaron, where would you like to begin for this chat? And remember, it's just a flow. We're just going to see where it leads to.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have this opportunity to visit with you. And as we were emailing back and forth in the days leading up to today's discussion, this idea of the regeneration movement, the movement for increased healing, sustainability, and stewardship on our planet, really being an inside out job, if you will, if we want to call it a job, calling, action. And from my perspective and experience, having been engaged in this space for, something like 30 plus years now, it's become more and more clear to me that inner healing work is essential for us to be effective parents, leaders in our communities, and leaders in the emerging global regeneration renaissance that's underway.
Oh my gosh, I totally agree with you. It's like if we feel, I'll say this in a kind of nice way to say, if we can feel kind of like unclean or dirty inside, that's how we're going to treat what's around us. If we treat ourselves bad, we're going to treat the environment bad. So it really is like starting from the inside and bringing everything healing within, and which then gives us the ability to really cultivate the outside world too. So you make an amazing statement there. So you said something about inside out. Can you explain that to me? Like when you said that, I wasn't sure what it meant, but it got me like super excited to hear about it.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, really, when I am sharing this truth, for me, this is a truth that I've connected to and experienced, and this is with thought and the feeling of intuition in the heart. This inside out process and gesture and pattern hits on really all aspects and dimensions of our lives, our experiences as human beings. And so this includes the stewardship of our physical bodies. This includes the stewardship of the microbiome in our digestive systems, the neurobiochemistry that is really governing our entire experience day in and day out, our moods, our cognitive performance, our immune system responses. And then it is also very much about deliberately cultivating our awareness, our knowledge, our access to wisdom through choosing those things that we're reading, the media that we're taking in. Is it giving us positive messages and or historical knowledge and understanding, or is it, sort of filling us up with junk of one form or another? And my sense is that the more we're cultivating our mind, body, spirit from the inside out, the more we're on solid footing, to use the metaphor, we're on a solid foundation to be able to work effectively as leaders in our communities, our organizations, the companies we're working for, whatever it might be, our families. And, part of that, I think, practice is deepening into a calmness, a balance, a tranquility in the interior so that we can show up for others and for our living shared planet with that same sort of calm, balance, and tranquil energetic. And really, when we think about what we hope the future will look like, when we're thinking about sustainability and regeneration and stewardship, most of us are imagining joy and peace and fun and creativity and collaboration and community connectivity. And so if we can already demonstrate and embody those vibrations, those energetics, those attributes, it probably stands to reason that we're going to be that much more effective in actually helping to land that for our society and for our planet.
So, with what you're talking about right now, can you give me an example, maybe something that you're working on to do this? And feel free, like you can go as broad, as out there as you want. So, yeah, whatever one pops up to you the most, because I'm sure you're doing a lot, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What I've found is that whether we're talking about food and agriculture, or we're talking about energy, or we're talking about our economic systems, financial systems, what I've come to understand is that there's basically no silver bullet to solve the problems and challenges we're facing, in part because these are deep and systemic and interconnected. And so, what this comes down to for our own internal practices includes a whole number of different specific things, but it's not, about one single thing necessarily. And so for me, right now I'm drinking some superfoods with one of the partners that we've connected to through the Y on Earth community called Purium Organic Superfoods. This is something I'm doing every morning for many, many months now, and has really improved my health, my digestion, my frame of mind, my productivity, my energy levels. Things like yoga, taking a walk, getting out in nature. For me, getting out in nature is one of the most important. I find that I get pretty out of whack, actually, if several days go by and I haven't taken some time to go connect, get in the woods, whether that's by skiing or snowshoeing, hiking this time of year, or in the warmer months. Obviously, we can do things like hiking without as many layers of clothes and backpacking and these sorts of things. And yeah, I also find that meditating and working with a number of different incense and plant medicines. I'm not necessarily talking about entheogens. I'm talking about burning sage and cedar and osha and some tobacco and some of the other sacred frankincense, the other sacred medicinals that we work with. This is all part of the kind of day in and the day out flow. And those are just a few off the top of my head, Lauren. But yeah, there's a long, long list. And in my books, Why on Earth, which is nonfiction, and my new novel, Veriditas, which is like a documentary science fiction, science reality, there's a lot more of these things actually explored and discussed as well.
I love that. So, what would you say? So, you mentioned, a few of the incense, few of the herbs. Which ones are your favorite ones? And also, how do you feel like with the plants, with the herbs? How do you feel like you connect with them, or do you feel like you connect with them?
Absolutely. I feel very connected to the plants. And my sense is that this is probably one of the essential aspects of being a human being on planet Earth. Look, this entire situation we're sharing and experiencing together, being alive, being embodied as a human on Earth, is essentially animated and made possible by this giant thermonuclear reactor that's at a relatively safe distance, that is continuously showering our planet with something like 173,000 terawatts of energy, continuous flow. This is our sun, of course, that I'm talking about. And of that inbound energy hitting Earth continuously, the biosphere is capturing about 1% of that through photosynthesis, through that magical green chlorophyll molecule in the plants that can convert that sunlight effectively into sugars and food for us, for the soil, microorganisms. And this is essentially where and how life is animated on planet Earth. And as we're taking these green healing herbs and plants into our bodies, each one has a unique signature of traits in terms of healing, in terms of balancing our systems. And yeah, some of my favorites include, in the biodynamic tradition, we work with nettles, dandelion, yarrow, chamomile, oak. And it turns out those map to specific planetary bodies as well. So when we're working with the cycles of the moon and the other planets in our land stewardship practices, we're very much tuning into the different attributes and properties. So for example, dandelion is connected with Jupiter, which is about abundance and beneficence, and really this sense of the cup is overflowing. And that's one of my faves to work with. And dandelion, of course, is a tremendous superfood. So when I make an infusion, an herbal tisane with these different herbs, I almost always put a little dandelion in there as well. And yeah, there's a bunch, but those are a few that come to mind right now.
So what I've understood, and like I haven't really dove into this, but I'm interested to see what you say with this. I was just talking to a friend of mine, and I'm kind of like, the planets kind of go over my head a lot. I tap into other things, but planets, like, whew. Um, but she had said something about the beginning of the year has a lot to do with Mercury retrograde, and like working with Mercury this year, and also working with Mars this year. Because something with the opening of the year has these two planets, the end of the year has is working with these two planets too, and it's kind of like a theme of this year, which was very interesting to me, and I really haven't looked into that. But with that being said, what's your take, like if you can combine like some plants with that or something, or whatever comes up for you?
You bet. You bet. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so yeah, the planets are each in motion according to specific harmonic frequencies. And we can think about this in terms of their orbit path around the sun. So Mercury, I think, is somewhere around 88 days. And then Venus, the next planet out, actually completes its orbit in a ratio of Earth's orbit, our annual year. That is the phi ratio, or the golden ratio, or the sacred uh, golden mean that is often referred to in sacred geometry. And then there's Earth, of course, and then there's Mars. And I don't recall right off the top of my head its rotational or planetary orbital frequency. But when we get out to something like Jupiter, for example, that's a 12-year pattern. And then Saturn, as many of us know when we talk about our Saturn return, is somewhere around 28 years, 29 years, somewhere in there. And so with Mercury going retrograde, that occurs pretty frequently, actually. And
Yes.
Mercury has this really powerful set of attributes. On the Kabbalistic tree of life, by the way, it's the lowest level of the pillar of severity, and Mars is the next one above that, and Saturn is the next above that. And Mercury is the communicator. Mercury has this very intimate relationship with the sun, and is connected to some of the archetypes like Thoth and Hermes. And when we talk about the Hermetic arts, the above and the below, Mercury figures prominently. And yeah, when this my book Veriditas, I'm just showing for folks who are viewing, this term coined by Hildegard von Bingen means the green healing energy of the divine, of God, that flows through plants. And she was very much in tune, and actually wrote extensively about healing plants, as well as healing stones and other music and other things. And so this connection with Mercury and Mars is both about communicating and being very focused and productive in our endeavors. And also, it's, I think, important with that other pillar on the other side of the Kabbalistic tree of life, the pillar of mercy. We've got Venus, we've got Jupiter, and we've got Neptune up toward the top. And to tune in and work with and balance with all of those energies is part of the practice, I think, that we have before us and are invited to as humans. And for some of my friends who are kind of skeptical about all this sort of thing, I would just ask to consider looking at a a scale map of our solar system, which is just this little tiny system in the context of our galaxy. And there are billions of galaxies that we know of. So this is all very much nested hierarchies of context. And when we understand gravitational forces and some of the things that are at play in the physical reality, we know for sure we're being influenced. You just look at the tides and even women's luteal cycles, menstrual cycles, harmonized with the lunar cycle around this planet. There are some remarkable, some might call them coincidences, others miracles, others deep intelligence woven into all of these different frequencies and influences we find with the different planetary bodies.
Yes. It's interesting because, like, I was teaching some of my clients, it's like, say the chakra system, which, by the way, because we're changing as a species, our chakras are changing. They're actually shifting quite a bit, which is awesome, but it depends on where the person is in their journey. But what I've taught some of my clients is, just like you said, everything is interconnected. So maybe someone has, learned about the aura and maybe learn aura readings, and they learned layers of the aura. What I teach is it's in line with the chakras. You can use either or both in your healing, for example, if somebody knows how to do that or whatever. So I was like teaching somebody, for example, how they could use both in their healing and to assist other people. But it's so in alignment. So it's just like, our energy area of our body. So our arc field, our light body, our chakras, all of that are so interconnected that it's like it's not separate. And it's just like within us, energetically, even physiologically, mentally, it all works together. And it just kind of, it's like a little minute to getting bigger and bigger and bigger, going out into the whole universe, multiverse, however big you want to go. So yes, I absolutely love what you said. Do you have any take on that or anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I also do quite a bit of work with the chakra centers, and I find that with the work that we're doing through the Y on Earth community, which is very much about speaking outward and sharing with communities and with organizations, so that connects to the throat chakra, right, which has the color association of blue. And then we've got our around our dantian, around our belly, the solar plexus, the will center, which is associated with the color yellow. And of course, the blue and the yellow making green with the heart chakra, which is the middle of the seven in the traditional Eastern understanding. And this is the green. This is also the geometric pattern of the star tetrahedron. And when we're working with biodynamic land and water medicines, when we're working with certain special stones like rose quartz and peridot, we also take a look at the molecular structures, the harmonic resonances, the color signatures, and even in some cases, the planetary connections, and bring that intelligence into the simple practices and ceremonial offerings that we're doing for our own healing and the healing of the land and the water and the planet. And yeah, this is a vast subject, and obviously many different indigenous and esoteric spiritual lineages have been teaching on these subjects for millennia, many thousands of years, and we could spend lifetimes exploring this. But I think that one of the opportunities we have is to connect in and start learning more and start opening up to what's really possible. And as one of my dear friends and mentors says, that once we start to really understand what we're capable of as individual human beings, we might just be able to do some tremendously powerful healing work on our planet in these times when that is really needed.
Yes, absolutely. So this one, I have a question for you. For right now, for the times of right now, what plant do you feel, and or it could be plant, it could be a combination. What do you feel to work with right now for what we're going through, or what are you working with?
You bet. Yeah, yeah. Well, so I would say that first and foremost, water and soil. There's a poem we often share when we're doing our monthly meetups, which we've just launched for our growing ambassador network, which is a global network. And we're doing more and more in-person ceremonial gatherings through our new Veriditas Society. And we read often this Hopi Elder Speaks poem. And in that poem, it says, "Where is your water? Know your water." And it's, I think, really important in these times that to the extent we're able, that we're accessing and drinking fresh spring water, well water that hasn't been treated, if we can avoid the municipal treatments. And if we're only using the municipal waters, there are things we can do to filter and clean and structure those as well. So with the water and the soil regeneration is so central to stabilizing our climate, detoxifying our food, our environments at large. And from there, obviously, we get to work with different plants. And there are several that I think are central to this work of our own body nourishment and the regeneration of the ecosystems we live in. A few that come to mind include the hemp or cannabis plant, which is an extraordinarily powerful healer and dynamic accumulator. It does a lot of work in an annual cycle for soil building and other aspects of our permaculturing, our food forest development work. Comfrey is also a powerful dynamic accumulator that's great to take in through tisanes, infusions. And then dandelion is fabulous, and nettle is fabulous. And nettle, actually having so much iron in it, it's also a dynamic accumulator that has incredibly dense nutritional quality for us, whether we're making a lasagna with it or infusing it in tea. Nettle is connected to the planet Mars, by the way. So with your observation about the role of Mars in this annual cycle, nettle might be of even more import right now. And just while we're at it and talking about the planets, with Mercury, there's an affiliation with chamomile, which is a beautiful communication plant. And so, yeah, those are a few that come to mind off the top of my head. And then there's a practice of befriending a tree wherever you are, whether in a city, a suburb, a rural setting. Connect with a tree, develop a relationship with that tree, ask questions, listen, ask that tree to help you communicate and connect with the natural living biosphere. You'll be perhaps astonished by what might show up for you there. And I've got some trees that I connect with up in the mountains. In the city, there's a beautiful cedar tree on the University of Colorado campus in Boulder I've been friends with literally for something like 25 years, since my daughter was born. And so in addition to the herbs and plants we work with in the gardens and in the landscape and in our own bodies, we can connect with a lot of these trees. Many of them are so many decades old at this point. There's a lot we can, this may sound funny to some, but there's a lot we can learn from them. And also, I've got a house plant named Maxwell sitting off camera here that I've had a connection with since high school. We've been hanging out for whatever that is now. Golly, it's doing quick math, 30 some years. And so this relationship with plants is really important.
Absolutely love that. When you're speaking of the different plants, like the ones that you said feel you have a lot of relevance for right now. When you said dandelion, like what I felt with dandelion is like, you know, you were talking about the sun earlier. I got this like very strong energy, and I was tapping into the other planets, but this one for some reason is sticking out. So I'm bringing it up. It's like so much sun energy. Like this huge connection with the sun is what I feel with dandelion. It's like so strong. What's your thought of that?
Yes, it's very strong. It's definitely connected with the sun and with Jupiter, as I mentioned. And as we're doing deepening into our work with the plants and the planets, we start thinking in terms of not just single plants and planets, but configurations. So when we're working with the sun and Jupiter together, you know, there's this extraordinary overflowing life force, energy, abundance, resources that we can call into our lives for our good works. The service that we're providing to the world. And yeah, and of course, it's a great opportunity to mention a dear friend and another mentor and teacher of mine, Brigitte Mars, who is an elder herbalist and has written something like 15 books and taught so many people here in Colorado and all around the world. And dandelion is one of her top three favorites that she mentions, along with nettle and hemp cannabis. So, yeah, dandelion's a very special one, and there's a lot we can do both with the flower and foliage above ground and also the roots that are below ground. A very special plant that basically grows all around the world, right? It's also a very resilient plant. And I know Brigitte encourages us to eat more weeds, so-called weeds, the survivors, to help give some of that resilient information and knowledge to the cells in our body. And I think she's onto something there.
Yeah, I feel that. So with dandelion, because it's still popping up, is I'm getting a sense. Okay, so my predictions for what's coming up as far as this year was around. I knew January was going to be a little wonky with a lot of stuff bubbling up within us, and then like mid February, I felt like something was going to change a little bit. March, I felt like was going to get way more, I'll say, beautiful. Again, it depends on the person's path, but in general is kind of what I was feeling with these predictions. But I'm feeling like, depending on the person, but almost mid-February, I'm getting a sense of like if someone has a connection with dandelion, I feel like mid-February is we're gonna like even speed up even more to like open up our gifts, move forward, like grow. I mean, we're continuously growing drastically, but it's almost like that action time, like mid-February, more March, but mid-February is kind of when it starts. And I'm almost getting the sense of like combining dandelion to receive the energy from the sun and kind of give us that like oomph. And I feel like I have a sense that it can help unlock certain gifts, spiritual gifts. I don't know. It just popped up. What are your
I,
thoughts?
that resonates for me, right? And we're discussing in a direction that is not necessarily something we could prove in a scientific sense, but it that resonates for me. And interestingly, in the early springtime, the late winter, dandelion is one of the first to flower and is actually a critical source of food and sustenance for the bees, the other pollinators, as they're coming out of the winter time. And unfortunately, especially here in the United States, we've seen this crazy chemical warfare where people are out spraying poisons on the dandelions in their yards. And it's actually the last thing we should be doing. We shouldn't be spraying poisons anywhere. We shouldn't be manufacturing poisons, frankly. And let alone putting them in our yards where our children and our pets are playing and so on. And we should not only not be spraying these dandelions, but we should understand that they are critical food right around March for the pollinators and the insects we rely on for our lives. And yeah, there's very much this connection with the sun. And today, by the way, is Imbolc. Happy Imbolc Bridget's Day, which is the cross quarter between the winter solstice and the spring equinox, which of course will be in March. And this is a time when the soils beneath the surface, even when there's snow on the ground, are their most active all year round. They're preparing, getting ready, preparing the nutrition the plants need for this bursting forth, this birthing that occurs every springtime in the northern hemisphere. And there are so many beautiful cycles we can tune in there. And I just wanted to share, in the book Veritas, there's also this this is the Kabbalistic tree of life that shows the planets and the plant affiliations for folks who are interested in that. And there's all kinds of goodies like that in here. So yeah, it's a special time going from Imbolc to spring equinox. And of course, the days are getting longer. Not only are they getting longer, they're getting longer by more and more each day as we approach equinox. It's the kind of same pattern we see with a pendulum swinging. That rate of change is at its maximum at the equinoxes. So the time is of the returning of the sun and the growing of the daylight and the preparation for the bursting forth and birthing of the springtime.
Absolutely love that. Absolutely. It is time. So, is there any last things that you want to say for everybody before we hop off?
Just happy to connect. If folks would like to engage, we're at whyonearth.org. It's the letter Y, ONEARTH.org. You can check out the Veriditas novel at veriditasbook.com, VIRIDITAS.com. Love to connect with you, do things in person and online. And Lauren, thanks so much for your leadership in the community and for all that you're doing. And it's wonderful to have this opportunity to chat with you today.
It's been amazing. A couple of the comments is Ali said she's highly interested in permaculture. She can see there's much more to learn, and she's just starting to gather info right now. And so I'll also put your link on this video, the recording of it, once we get off. And then she also said, I work every year to stop my condo board from killing my dandelion garden. I finally got them to stop poisoning my yard. Thank you both for sharing this topic. Deepest gratitude to you both. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, everybody who has joined. And we will see you soon, guys. And again, I will leave his link in the recording. And if anybody needs help at getting in touch with them, if you don't see the link, contact me too, if anybody's in the group or anything like that. So again, thanks, guys. Aaron, if you could stay on just a second. And everybody, we'll see you later.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.